Long ago, in a tiny mountain town, there was a bell that rang only once each night. Nobody knew who rang it. The bell stood at the top of an old stone tower overlooking the town. Every night at exactly midnight, dong, one single sound, and then silence. The people of the town had grown so used to it that they hardly noticed anymore. Until one winter night, the bell stopped. At first, nobody worried. Perhaps the old bell had finally broken. But that night, something strange happened. The stars above the town began disappearing, one by one. The sky became darker than anyone had ever seen. An old woman named Clara remembered something her grandmother had once told her. "The bell doesn't ring for the people," her grandmother had said. "It rings for the stars." Clara had never understood what that meant until that night. She took a lantern and walked toward the old tower. Snow covered the narrow stone steps. The wind whispered through the empty streets. When Clara reached the top, she found the great bell hanging silently in the darkness. Beside it was a small wooden box. She opened the box. Inside was a faded note. It read, "When the bell becomes silent, someone must remember why it rings." Clara looked up at the empty sky. She thought about the town, the people who were sleeping, the children dreaming in warm beds, the old couples sitting beside fireplaces, the travelers who had finally found a place to rest. And suddenly, Clara understood. The bell was not calling the stars. It was reminding people to look up. She stepped toward the bell and gently pulled the rope. Nothing happened. She pulled again, still nothing. Then she whispered, "Somewhere, someone is still looking for a little light." The wind became completely still. Clara pulled the rope one final time. Dong. The sound traveled across the mountains. It passed over the sleeping town. It touched the frozen lake. It disappeared into the dark sky. Then, one tiny star appeared, then another and another. Soon the entire sky was filled with silver light. Clara smiled. The stars had returned. But something else had changed. The people of the town began waking quietly and looking through their windows. For the first time in years, they noticed the sky. They noticed how beautiful the night really was. And from that night onward, the bell rang every midnight. Not because the stars needed it, but because people needed a reminder to pause, to breathe, to look up, and to remember that even on the darkest night, there is always a little light waiting somewhere above. Years later, Clara became an old woman. One winter evening, she sat beside her window and listened. Dong. The familiar sound drifted across the town. Clara smiled. She looked at the stars, and before closing her eyes, she whispered, "Good night." Perhaps tonight, somewhere far away, a bell is ringing for you too. A gentle reminder that you don't have to carry everything into tomorrow. Let the night hold your worries. Let the stars keep watch. And let yourself rest. Good night. Sleep peacefully.